Welcome back to the Legacy Crusaders blog. The blog is picking up pace. It's at 13 subscribers, which is pretty neat, and that's because of the How to Play Burning Abyss preview video, where we put together the basic BA deck for how to play BA, but we haven't played out the match yet. Today I'm actually going to go through the comments of several videos, talk about them a little bit, just a little bit of people's thoughts and why they might make certain comments, and what's annoying about them, what's nice about them, and so on. Starting off, I just want to say we're at 1,802 subscribers. That's pretty nice, almost at 2,000. Moving at a reasonable pace, just posting a video just about every week. I have a Thunder Dragon versus Trickstar duel that I still need to do commentary for and post before the ban list, so I got to do that. Additionally, we have to do How to Play Burning Abyss, and I have a couple of thumbnails to show you before we move on. So this is the background for How to Play Burning Abyss, although I do have a secondary background. I'm not sure which one is going to be better. Going with this thumbnail. Today we're going to be reading the comment section, and this is the background for How to Play True King Nephthys Cosmo, which should be going up soon as well. So all those videos need to go up. Anyways, we're going to get into the comments now. So I've plucked these from different videos from over the course of the last few months for different reasons. I had considered removing the names of the posters, but at the same time, if people don't want their comments to be commented on, they shouldn't post them. Anyways, this is from the Lair of Darkness structure deck. Ask Judgeman, like, how does Lair work and the cards in the Lair deck? My opponent asks, my commenter asks, what happens when I effect Veiler a Lilith? And that's a very vague statement. What happens when you Veiler any monster? You negate its effects until the end of the turn. If you're not going to ask a question clearly, you're not going to get a clear answer. Now, fortunately, I take the time to ask questions about your question to try and answer you appropriately. I don't know if you heard that car in the background. I apologize. So when you have a very specific question, you need to provide additional details so that your opponent, the judge or whoever you're asking the question can answer you appropriately. So in this case, Lilith is a monster that contribute monsters on the field. So I'm sure his question really had to be, if he negates the effect of Lilith by chaining Veiler, will the monster be tributed? Like, is it a cost? Or his question might be, if he activates Veiler and then can he chain Lilith? There's a bunch of questions that weren't really clear here. So when you ask questions for response, like a judge type response, and again, I'm not the perfect source, but you have to ask a question in a way that I can answer it, because some questions, I can't answer them. Sometimes I respond yes or no in the vaguest way possible because you're not providing enough information. So I had to answer this as vaguely as possible. It says, given only what you said, not implying Lilith is chained to or chained from. I make a lot of typos when I respond to these things. Or neither. I think it was supposed to be or, not our. From chained to or chained from or neither. I assume Lilith's would be affected till the end of the turn. Negated until the end of the turn is what I meant to say. I.e., she did trigger later in the if she did trigger later in the turn. I wrote of. She can activate, assuming there's 3 traps in the deck. In order to pay the cost, means tribute a monster and resolve with no effect. So tribute herself and do nothing. And then the opponent, then the commenter said, for example, will the search be negated? And then I had to say I have to assume she stayed on the field, because you can't Veiler a monster that's not on the field. So ask a good question, get a good answer. All right, let's see the next comment. This one is a recent one. This is from Federico Squiato. Don't know who that is. But he leaves a comment commenting on something that was said during the How to Play True Draco Without Masterpiece video, which is TJ, or Jarkvos, who was my expert in the video, said, I'm currently by far the most rated True Draco player on Dueling Book. And his clever, useful, relevant current response was, ha, you're none, just to let you know. And yeah, time passes. Ratings change. If you aren't familiar with Dueling Book, the ratings change every time a ban list change. So somebody who was on top before could not be on top again. It's just the way it is. And that doesn't mean we don't want to put it in our video, because part of putting in a video is providing testimonials so that people take what you say seriously. So at the time, that was true. And if you see TJ playing on Dueling Book, you'll know he's good. And he might be rated somewhere now. I have no idea. I don't actually play on Dueling Book. Let's take a look at some more comments. I have a few. I posted my World Celebration tournament list because I won one tournament in a day of two. And I have opponents who constantly like to comment on my card choices. Now, that's fine. A lot of people just say your deck is bad because of this and they don't provide any additional reasoning. I try to respond to your comments as long as they're not just insulting. Let's move on. So this was one that was really annoying the other day. And it was annoying not because, I wanted to help my commenter, but he wasn't letting me help him. So this is Eduardo Pereira. And he says, if I chain Ghost Ogre to Candina's effect to search a Trickstar card from the deck, does my opponent still get the search after she's destroyed or not? Now, the entire video talks about how continuous spells and traps and field spells and pendulum spells need to remain on the field to activate and resolve their effect. And that was the entire point of the video, and that it doesn't negate cards if they are monsters because they're technically they're on the field when they trigger their on-summon effects, so they're already on the field. And I had the words already on the field pop up in the video like 10 times to indicate already on the field, you can ogre it, and ogre does not negate effects. He asked the very specific question, so I responded with a very specific answer. Ogre doesn't negate effects, and Candina is not a continuous spell, trap, field, equip spell, so it doesn't need to remain on the field to resolve its effect. Okay, I know what I'll do. Let me respond and ask the exact same question about another monster in the exact same scenario where there's nothing different to distinguish why this would or would not change. They ask again. They say thanks. Okay, so I answered your question. And he says, does Trishula's effect resolve, or is it negated? Trishula activates on summon. How is that different from Candina? There is nothing different about Candina. So I have to answer it with a question in a way that's kind of mean, and I feel bad, but, I hope he got it. I said, I'm unsure why you're confused. I want to help you. The point of these videos are to make connections between the scenarios, so you don't need to ask the same question over and over and over again. And I tell him 3 cards, all with the exact same scenario, and there's no reason why you should consider Trishula different from Candina. The condition that you're suggesting in this problem is exactly the same. A monster effect triggers on summon. You destroy it with Ogre. It's not one of the things that needs to remain on the field. It's not going to be stopped. So apply common sense. You got to try and make connections between Yu-Gi-Oh cards, and occasionally there are Yu-Gi-Oh cards that violate the rules of the game, and they're inconsistent with other rulings that have been made, and that's going to happen. But usually they don't. More often than not, there's a strict connection between how these cards work, and it's really weird when you ask a question that pretty much says, I'm not going to apply any conscious thought to this question. I'm just going to keep asking them. And I'm not trying to be mean, but find a balance. This, at least if the scenario was even remotely different, it would matter. I don't see what the difference would be. Maybe the question is they had Ogre in their hand. It was the only card in their hand. Now they have no cards. Will they be able to banish from Trishula? Yes, does not negate it. You resolve an effect as much as possible, but if at least you include that, there's something different to discuss, and you have to provide more information to justify asking a question that's exactly the same. It just doesn't make sense. I have like 5 more things. They're all pretty short. So this one was a question on hard and soft once per turns. My opponent, I gotta stop saying my opponent. The commenter, Javier Brazard, says, why can Odd Eyes Vortex Dragon's bounce effect be used multiple times per turn? Is it because it's revived? It's a different place or a different monster zone? I have no idea where he found the idea that you could use it more than once per turn. The card says you can use its effects once per turn. It's listed under hard effects the way it's written on every card with a hard effect. It says in quotation marks, Odd Eyes Vortex Dragon can only use each of its effects once per turn. So sometimes people, they learn something wrong and then they try and contradict very basic game ideas because they've learned it wrong. So, I understand sometimes if someone misinforms you or they tell you something, you always have to go by the text on the card. So if you're playing Yu-Gi-Oh! And you want to do well, you have to read the cards and you have to go by what the card says. What your opponent says could be true, but they have to provide something in addition to suggest why a card's text would be contradicting itself. Once per turn effects, I understand confuse people, but if you're going to say why one card can be used more than once per turn, have a reason. Your opponent should have a reason if they're going to try and convince you of that. So please look out for that. This is the kind of comment that I really hate. So from Dylan Evans, I did a video on how to play Psyframes, a comprehensive guide. I did like 5 or 6 videos on this. I'm not sure which one this was. It's not that important. He just writes a comment, activates it from deck on your opponent's turn. What? I mean, sometimes you need to provide enough information. If you make a comment, I guess he didn't want a response. Otherwise, he would have made it something that could be responded to. You can't respond to that comment. It doesn't make any sense. Moving on. 5 to go. Here we go. Andrew Adini asks a question on the continuous monster effect video on a specific question covered exactly in the video. The video was on how continuous monster effects work and that they don't activate and don't have triggers. And I specifically said if there's a Lycoris on the field and you're going to take 200 damage for burn and you draw for turn, there's nothing you can do to stop that because the first thing you have to do for the turn is draw a card. So their question is, can they negate Lycoris? And because I said cards don't activate, you can't chain this card. So again, if sometimes people are leaving comments in videos without clearly watching them. Now, I know I get a lot of commenters from people who are in different countries, and sometimes English isn't their first language. I am surprised they watch my videos that much. There's nothing wrong with watching the video if you're from another country. It's just weird that you, if you can watch the video and write the question in English, I assume you'd be able to read it or understand the questions that are being brought up in the videos. Let's move on. 4 to go. This was a long comment, and it shows that I get back to people really quickly if I can. So this was a question from Zachary Flujman. He asks, and this is on the Borreload Dragon video, and which is mostly about the fast effects timing chart. He asks, would you be able to Dolka Borreload? Now, Dolka, or would I have to Logia it on summon? So it was pretty much asking, can Dolka negate the effect of Borreload Dragon because it negates monster effects, and this whole video is on how Borreload can dodge the effects of certain cards. Reasonable question, as Dolka and Logia are different, and they both can be used in different ways. And then there were some questions about when you can use these effects. So Dolka can't negate the effect to neg a monster 500 attack. It can't respond to it. And what else happens? When you attack with Borreload Dragon and activate the effect to steal a monster, you pass priority to your opponent, allowing them to respond. And the question is, like, can he cut ahead of you and do a neg 500 play to make it so you can't respond? And the answer is no. You can't just ignore your opponent's opportunity to respond to a card effect unless there's multiple trigger effects and they all trigger simultaneously, and you have to put them in the order on the chain in the order you want. And in this case, the neg 500 effect of Borreload Dragon is actually not a what do you call it? It's a quick effect. It's not a trigger effect, so it's not somewhere you could stack the chain in a way you want. So the Borreload steal effect is a trigger effect, but in response to your opponent's last trigger effect, you get the opportunity to respond with a quick effect. Anyways, moving on. These are fun and useful comments. My video is recorded using my Galaxy S9 Plus, and my commenter said, this would be best if this video is in 1080. And I mean, no shit. No fucking shit. If a video would be better if I used better quality, yes. I don't know if you know how much money YugiTubing makes, or YouTubing at all. It's not a lot until you get to like 10,000 subscribers and you're getting thousands of views for every video you post just because you're already up there. I'm like, I have one video at 15,000 views and everything else is less, and that video has maybe made like $50 in its lifetime, you know? And it's not going to change. I'm not going to get a better camera just to get slightly higher quality of gameplay, view, or visuals in a live recording. Alright, so let's move on. Some comments just aren't helpful or useful. So I was doing how to play, very basic how to play for beginners in Yu-Gi-Oh! And my opponent, commenter, wanted to know what was going on with this series. And I put it off for a while because it takes time to do these. And I was actually really happy with the how to normal summon video went. I actually asked a friend to kind of explain it, and he appeared on camera, my friend Chris Barwicki. And I wanted him to, do that, and I wanted to get other people to do the other summons, so I was going to do Flip Summon next. But it's been hard to get people to sit down and do these. They're very easy, and they're fun. It's kind of fun to see people get involved, but people don't always want to take the time and sit down and do them at the card shop. Alright, now one last comment. I forgot what it was. On the most popular video on the channel, which is the ABC FTK video, which was a Firewall Loop with Cannon Soldier, kind of the earliest one. It was a combo that only worked if you opened Soul Charge, so a lot of people were complaining that the video was misleading. It was not. There was no other FTK that could be done using ABC at the time, so it did qualify. It was a good title. It told what the deck was, and people just want everything to be perfect. Now, anyone who plays meta, if you play a meta deck, you will see that your deck just feels like it moves so smoothly. It's so much better than playing rogue. Rogue decks, I love rogue decks. I don't play meta decks. But I played meta. I played Pendulum Magicians for one day. I played it and got 18th place regional finish. Same place I got my 5th place regional finish with Infernoites, which was rogue at the time. And oh my god, it felt so easy to play a meta deck. It's just like everything just kind of comes to you for free. So whenever you post a deck list and people are expecting it to be really broken and insane, and it's not the easiest thing on the planet, people complain. I mean, people just aren't competent to figure out how to play a deck. And the point of that deck was that it had this FTK as just like a piece of its combo, a usable feature, but it wasn't the main focus. And it was very usable. So, you know, this comment from Mama Musa said, your FTK requires 16 burns. No shit, 500, 16 times 8,000. And theirs only requires 7. And it's way more consistent and plays through hand traps. And I don't know what response you were expecting me to say was. I said okay, and I figured if you wanted to provide more information, you would. So some of these comments, I mean, I could say a comment too. I mean, I have an FTK. It requires no plays at all. I just win the game. And what are you going to say? I mean, it's meaningless nonsense. You know, provide information or don't provide information. You know, make comments that are meaningful, that there's a discussion to have, and, you know, you won't look silly. Anyways, if you guys want your comments read out, leave comments on the videos. I mean, I'm not trying to be mean. I just want to help people make better comments on my content. Ask questions that are easier to answer in terms of like the way you write them. Don't say things that are completely meaningless. And I'll see you next time. Because, yeah, not responding to meaningless comments.